Hi, my name is Alyssa Scott, and I am so excited to bring you Seesaw and the Science of Reading. Today, we are going to focus on high frequency word instruction, and I am excited for us to dig deeper in how we can enhance our reading instruction using Seesaw. I have been teaching kindergarten and first grade for 9 years now. Absolutely love those grade levels. And we have used Seesaw. I have used Seesaw for 6 years now, 6 years in the classroom. And by the end of the year, the kids are remarkable at using this app, and they're always so excited about it, as are their families. So I am excited for us to dig a little bit deeper on how we can use Seesaw to, again, enhance our reading instructions, focusing on high frequency words, but also bridging that gap between home and school, being able to show our parents how they can help their children with, I think, everyone's favorite skill that they have to send home, those sight words. And so as we get started, I want to provide some background knowledge of why being strategic and intentional when teaching sight words, high frequency words, why it's important. Why are we even diving into this concept? So let's think about this. We know that 38% of all fourth grade students are below basic reading skills. They are at or below the 40th percentile for their age group. And as we've heard some people say, well, no wonder, because English is crazy. It's a hard language to learn. Well, surprisingly, approximately 85% of words in English are phonetically spelled. That means 85% of our words in the English language can be sounded out. However, 16% of words in English are not, but they appear 80% of the time. So 16% of words in English the 16% that cannot be sounded out appear most of the time. They appear 80% of the time. Some of these irregular words have some phonics support though. So if we look at the word what, 66% phonetically supported. That WH, wh, and we know the T, t. It's that A that's irregular. If you look at the same concept, if you look at the word want, 75% is phonetically supported. Now, sight words and phonics skills improve as phonological awareness improves. Phonological awareness is so important. Yes, I know we all work on sight words and phonics skills every single day in our classrooms, but let's make sure that we're also including that phonological awareness piece, because it is so important to build that foundation. As that phonological awareness improves, your sight words and the phonics skills are going to improve. Weak phonological awareness is memorization. That's going to it's equaling memorization for the children. They're trying to memorize these words if they have weak phonological awareness. And we have to know that memorizing is not reading. If we are memorizing words, we are not reading. Today, I want us all to reflect upon these questions, and even for this year, this school year. Do you teach high frequency words as a special set of words that needs to be memorized? Have you ever sent high frequency words home and said, cannot sound these words out. They just have to be memorized. Go home and memorize them. Right? Do we teach them that way still? How do you teach high frequency words? Is it the same every single way or every single day? Do you have a systematic approach? Now, most of us have engaged in one process or another, from flashcards to rainbow writing to chanting routines, in an effort to help children commit those important words to long-term memory. Unfortunately, most of us also know the disappointment and even the confusion that comes from seeing a student read or write a word in practice, like we just practiced the word said at the guided reading table. You got it. And then 1 minute you're testing them through ESGI and they're staring blankly at it and they don't know it. And the next minute, we've all been there, that frustration. I don't know what else to do with these sight words. And you know, there's a misunderstanding when it comes to this. When we really think about how we teach high frequency sight words, how do we teach them? Why are they important? They all just need to be memorized. Well, let's think about this little misunderstanding that I know I've had myself. Sight words are the same as high frequency words. They're all just the same, it's just a different term. Actually, they're not. All high frequency words can be sight words. All high frequency words can be sight words, but not all sight words are high frequency words. Sight words can actually be any kind of word. Sight words are simply all words, not just high frequency words, that we have come to know through sight, sound, and meaning. As an expert reader, almost every word you read has become a sight word for you. A high frequency word, though, those are words that show up most frequently in text and are especially important for students to learn. And in fact, these 13 words that you see on the right-hand side of this screen, just look at those 13 words for a second. These 13 words make up 25% of the words in children's text. So, this means that if we strategically teach these 13 words, we use strategic effort in helping these readers store a few dozen high frequency words in the word form area of the brain, this can free up a lot of working memory for them to be able to decode those unfamiliar words because they already automatically know these words that make up 25% of their text. Furthermore, and of considerable importance, many high frequency words are absolutely decodable. So which makes their assignment to their flashcard pile or the word wall unnecessary. Do our children, if, for example, they know the sight word a, big, came, can, fast, if they can sound out these words and decode them, do we need to have those flashcards of memorizing the word or going up and checking the word wall to see how to spell them? Or can they use those skills that they already know, freeing up a lot of working memory? And they can actually read the text and start to comprehend. Because what distinguishes skilled word readers from poor word readers? Skilled word readers they have the ability to identify unfamiliar words by sounding them out. And they also have the ability to remember the words they read using orthographic mapping. Now that is one of our best practices that we're going to talk about today, that we're going to include in some Seesaw activities. Use an instructional routine to teach high frequency words that draws students' attention to internal analysis and mapping of words. You're thinking, what in the world? What are you talking about? Internal analysis and mapping of words. What do I mean by this? To learn the meaningful order of letters in a word, regardless of how regular or irregular the word is, takes more than just reciting the letters in order. T-H-E-Y, they. Takes more than that. It takes more than studying the whole word on a flashcard. More than writing the word 10 times in a row, even if the writing is in fun colors or scented markers. To really learn any new word, you have to get it in and do some phonemic analysis, comparing the word's sound structure to its spelling. This sound to spelling work is known as orthographic mapping, and it is essential in learning these words. And again, that's where our focus is going to be on today with those Seesaw activities. We're going to think about the sound to spelling work and the orthographic mapping. Now, if you've been involved in any science of reading research and might be reading some books for professional development, you have been hearing about orthographic mapping. All right? We might still be unclear, so let's go over it a little bit, because I know the more that I read it, the more that I understand, right? So the orthographic mapping is the process we use to permanently store words into long-term memory. Orthographic mapping is like when we read the word cat, right? We've already stored that in our long-term memory. We don't have to look at cat and say, cat, or cat, right? I'm not sounding it out. I already know that C-A-T, or the sounds together makes cat. It's in my long-term memory. That's part of the orthographic mapping. So orthographic mapping helps readers come to know high-frequency words, or any words for that matter, automatically. This orthographic mapping process may seem like only a small difference from chanting the letters, but it is critical if we want children to move words into the long-term storage of their visual word form area, eventually converting them to sight words. It is important to understand that proficient readers do not memorize whole words. Even though they look as they do, as if they do, they do not memorize those whole words. They're doing it so quickly, they're processing every letter in a word. And most importantly, automatic word recognition frees up attention for comprehension. Right? So the more automatic they know all of these words, they are able to focus, give more energy to the comprehension side of reading, which is the main goal, right? To understand what we're learning, what we're reading about. Orthographic mapping requires, again, letter sound proficiency, phonemic proficiency, and the ability to establish a relationship between sounds and letters unconsciously while reading. So today, that's why I want to talk about just a few quick activity ideas that we can enhance our high-frequency word activities using Seesaw, but also bridging that gap from school to home, right? Before we dive into the specific Seesaw activity, routines to build within your whole group instruction or even at small group instruction, probably both, is orthographically mapping those high frequency words. Okay, not just showing the word said and saying, oh, do you see that word? S-A-I-D, said, S-A-I, and doing that the whole week. Let's build those high frequency words. Let's orthographically map them. And what do I mean by this? So for example, looking at the word, the first word we're going to look at is stop. So you might be not even showing your students anything at this point, right? I'm not even showing them a word. I'm just going to say our word for today, I might be introducing it, is stop. Have you ever heard stop before? And you might talk about a few sentences using the word stop, getting familiar with what we're talking about. Then, before you even show them the word, this is that phonemic awareness. Okay, this is game changer for these high frequency words, these sight words. Stop. How many sounds? Let's think about the sounds first. How many sounds do you hear in stop? Let's count them together. St, ah, p, stop. That's right, you hear 4 sounds. And this is where, again, with these orthographically mapping of sight words, high frequency words, you can bring in that L. Conan box and show those 4 different sounds. Now, as a teacher, I might demonstrate first moving the chips to match the sounds that I hear. S, t, ah, p. That's right, 4 sounds and stop. Now you might have the students do it independently as you bring the chips back down. S, t, ah, p. Stop. Very good. Now they are ready to think about the letters that correspond with that sound. So we would say the word stop again and think about stop. The first sound is S. What letter is that? S. And we would continue on to that process, right? St. What letter? T. St. Ah. O. St. Up. What do you hear at the end? P. P. And they are able to write that word using their phonemic awareness, thinking about the sounds first before they even write the word. And then you would have them, again, practice. You're not just stopping with this, right? You have them write it again, have them find it in sentences, have them read it in sentences, using that strategic approach. But now you're thinking, that's easy. That can be sounded out, no problem. What about those words that are irregular? That have a part that does not, like, they don't know that skill yet. The long E sound, C. Maybe we haven't heard E and they don't know E. What about those words, right? We can still do it. It just looks a little bit differently. So irregular spelled words, sometimes you might hear them as heart words, are called heart words because some part of the word will have to be learned by heart. We do have those, right? So heart words are also used so frequently that they need to be read and spelled automatically. Examples of heart words are said, are, and where. Those are sight words that our students really do. You probably have found that they struggle a little bit more with that. But we can still be intentional. We don't have to say you just have to memorize it. We just have to memorize. We can still be intentional in our instruction and also provide this on Seesaw, this instruction to our families so they can kind of see how they can help their students. So before we even get into the Seesaw activities, let's talk about how we would do this whole group, small group in the classroom. A word that presents a challenge for decoding is an irregular word because the sounds of the letters are unique to that word or to a very small number of words, which is permanently irregular. Or sometimes, especially when you have kindergarten, first, second grade, the student has not yet learned the letter sound correspondences in the word, which means it's temporarily irregular. Like in the sight word see, they might not in kindergarten know yet that double vowel EE says E. And that might be temporarily irregular that they have to know by heart. But once they learn that skill, it will go into like a sight word that they already know, right? They can use their decoding skills. So for example, again, whole group, small group. What would I do if I have an irregular word? We would still do the same process, but we do call attention to the part that they have to know by heart. So for example, again, without showing the kids any words, I'm going to say our word for today is said. Can you say that word? Said. Have you heard that word before? And you have a conversation, right? Then it's time to count out the sounds. How many sounds do you hear in said? Phonemic awareness. S, e, d. That's right, you have 3. And sometimes if you don't want to do the L-Conan boxes, that's okay. You can see I have 3 lines right here to represent each sound in said. S, e, d. Said. And we would again map out this word together, noticing that there's actually 2 parts that they can sound out that has the regular letter sound correspondence, but that middle will have to talk about knowing it by heart. So said. What's the first sound that you hear in said? S. What letter is that? S. okay? We'll say it again. Said. What do you hear at the end of said? D. What letter makes that sound? D. That's right. Said. What we hear in the middle of said? S. Ed. Eh. Okay. Well, yes, but we have to know by heart that in the word said, that AI makes the sound. And then you can even give a visual here for this word, those color boxes, meaning that's a regular letter sound correspondence, and then that heart underlines the irregular part that they have to know by heart, by memory. We know that that S is S, D is D, but we have to know by heart that AI says ed, said. And that is how, again, using that mapping, you could introduce those words, whole group and small group, which again, you could bring into your Seesaw activities that I'm about to show you right now. Again, thinking words on any high frequency word list can easily be categorized into high frequency words and irregular words, hard words. Be cautioned that a word may change categories. Again, for example, early in phonics scope and sequence, C may be a hard word in kindergarten because the long E spelling pattern has not been taught. When students learn that EE spells long E, it becomes a high frequency word and that they are able to decode. Now we are ready to create some of those Seesaw activities, to collaborate together. This is when we can be creative and design those Seesaw activities tailored to what our students in our classrooms need, our families. We will also be able to share with our families how we are teaching and learning high frequency words in the classroom using that process, right? We're not just memorizing it. We can give them instruction through that Seesaw app, and they can view how we teach those high frequency words in the classroom and continue that education at home, which is invaluable. That's awesome, right? When you're thinking about creating and building those sight word activities into Seesaw, you might want to do small, like just small activities each day, or you might want to have it all in one. But I think it's very important for us to think about modeling and practicing that phoneme graphing mapping on Seesaw to deliver again as an activity for independent practice, but also something that our families can view at home. They are able to see how we are intentionally teaching these words and how they can help their child and continue that learning at home. Instead of just giving them a paper list, here, memorize these words, we can show them how we're doing this. Now, you might have, so I did this all in just one activity, but again, you might want to do it in separate ones. But you can see, you can model first as a teacher, make a little video, say your word is fish that you're working on for this week, fish. And you model counting out the sounds, fish, sh, and model using those chips in the Phoneme boxes as the student watches and practices along. And then you can have them independently practice that same skill using the microphone to record themselves as they do it. Sh. Another idea for this would be phoneme graphing correspondences, where they are writing using those Phoneme boxes to write the letter for each sound that they hear in fish. Teacher can model what that looks like and then have the student do it. And if you want to give them like the little word at the top, in case you are worried about them losing track of what they're doing, you can provide as much assistance as you want, depending on the child and the student. You may also have them make connections, right? With that, once they've used the phoneme graphing correspondences, they've practiced that phoneme graphing mapping, you might want them to write the word 3 times, right, on their own. You might want them to read a sentence or listen to a sentence using that word and have them circle a picture that matches the sentence. You might also have them do some word work where they're building the word with manipulative letters on Seesaw. You can see we can create that as an activity, and we might have them write it to complete the sentence. And again, depending on your student and what they need, I have right here the picture. If they just use the move tool and they move the fish, the word fish is underneath that picture so they can check to see if they're correct. That might be something that you want for younger students. It might not be. You might not want them to have that available to them. It just depends on your purpose for the activity. And as a practice to wrap up, you can always use those things that we've been used to be doing, highlighting the words in a grid, like please find the fish all the times and highlight and count how many times you found the word fish, right? You can still do those type of activities. I think the biggest takeaway for this is modeling and having them practice that phoneme grapheme correspondences and the phoneme grapheme mapping. If we can model that within all of these other activities, I think that's a game changer, especially for our families that would like that at home, that help. Now, example Seesaw activities will be provided for you that I have created that you can edit for teaching those high frequency words. I have included fish and said. They will be available and made to you. Now, remember our purpose for teaching these high frequency words. The goal is to leverage their phonemic awareness to help anchor these words into their sight word memory for effortless retrieval. To leverage their phonemic awareness, to know those sounds, to know that mapping, to help anchor these words into their sight word memory for effortless retrieval. That's why this is so important. For more information and resources to help build those Seesaw activities, you want to visit the University of Florida Literacy Institute Virtual Teaching Resource Hub. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. There are so many activities. It is a wealth of knowledge. You will absolutely be inspired by it. I just know it. Now, I cannot wait to collaborate with you. And again, I thank you so much for your time.